Somebody said to me that if you spend 30 minutes every day on drawing, then you'll become able to do it. It's a practice thing. So I decided that I would sit down every day, sent the children off to school, and just drew for half an hour. After about a month, I began to feel that there was something there. I was able to produce things that I was happy with to some extent. And then I went along to an adult education class, and the teacher there taught me the tricks of drawing, shape and form, how you get things to look three-dimensional. And then one day he came in with a small branch, a twig with lichen growing on it, and sort of almost flung it on the table and said, "I think you'll like drawing this." 3 hours later I looked up, pretty well everyone else had gone home, I hadn't drunk my tea, I had just found myself absolutely absorbed in drawing that piece of wood, particularly with the lichen, and that's really what set me going. There's something about the textures, the minutiae of looking really closely at a twig. The longer you stare at it, the more you realise that there's all sorts of things going on, little dots and marks. And for me, it's always about the mark making, rarely about the colour. It's marks and tone, and the intricacy of looking close in these things. Even now when I draw flowers, I still get more excited when I get to the stem and I'm working my way down that. There's something about the twigs. And I was lucky to find something that appealed to me and was the right thing for me to draw. Botanical drawings take a long time, and I can't always sit down for that amount of time. I have exhibitions and things going on in between. And that's how the Daily Bee came about. We had a nest in the loft, and I started to find specimens around the garden. Bees are not really that long-lived. And they were something I could draw. It took about an hour to draw a bee when I first began. I was looking closely, looking them at different angles. And I shared them on social media. There was a whole community of artists sharing things on a daily basis, things like daily drawing. Drawing August was a big one, and then they went on to Print October. And I got involved with that community, and it helped encourage me to do a daily drawing. And I had gained a reputation for the Daily Bee. I was quite resistant for a long time from drawing honeybees. I'm about nature and natural, and honeybees felt a little farmed. And then somebody brought me a specimen from some wild honeybees that had been living in her cavity walls, and that changed it for me. And so now I've got a collection of honeybees. I spent quite a bit of time learning about bumblebees. Part of the process, it's important to know your subject. And I went on a couple of courses down at Dungeness with a lady called Nikki Gammons. She's currently running a project to reintroduce the short-haired bumblebee to this country. It went extinct in about 2006. But she's doing lots in this area to encourage bees back, working with farmers and landowners. And she helped me to understand how many different varieties there are, a bit more about their life cycle, why we're losing the bees and what we need to do about them. But it's not just the bees. Everything that we do to encourage bees back will bring all of the insects back into our lives. How often do we drive now and actually find our windscreen plastered with moss and things when we're driving at night? That doesn't happen now. We've lost so many insects. The bumblebee is big and fluffy and quite a poster girl for the project. But actually, all the insects are interesting and important that we keep. They all have their place. Wasps, they pollinate in the same way that bees do. Most of my raspberries last year were pollinated by wasps. They seem to know what's important for their next stage of development and go for the fruits. But they also clear up the detritus in the garden, and they kill off green fly larvae. They do so much good, and we tend to just think of them as a really nasty creature that gets in our way in August when we're trying to have barbecues and parties. Most insects don't live great long lives, so you find specimens, but gradually people have begun to realise that I like these things, and I get presents left for me hanging on the doorknob, posted through the letterbox. Some amazing surprises. Most people may not be quite so interested in the things that I am, but and certainly wouldn't get excited about finding a rat skull in the garden. I think my cat collected it and left it in the garden for me, and gradually it must have been a time of year when it rotted quite quickly. I do actually have the whole skeleton.